Okay,
Yeah, and then they take.
let's get underway here. We're recording and we are live on our Facebook. It's good to see you. Got Vacation Bible School going on this week, which is awesome. It's going terrific. We are so gifted to have Jessica Boyd as our director of children's ministry and youth ministry. So, anyway, so it's going great. A lot of great kids, a lot of great ministry happening. So couldn't be more delighted with that. Kathleen is out of the office this week. We've got our, I think Priscilla realizes how loud she is in the kitchen there.
Oh.
So I'll just talk about, so she was at Girl Scout camp and they got evacuated. They were near the fire somewhere.
Oh my God.
So, but she's going back. They had to evacuate now because of smoke, but, so, that got ended a little sooner.
Belfair.
Yeah, I think it's,
Mayfair.
what camp is it? It's, Camp Mile McLeod Tahuya, Robbins Wall, Camp Robbins. I don't know exactly where that is, around Cashman. Air quality is really horrible. So anyway, but our website did go down and I was able to get that figured out without bugging her too much. So apologize about that. It's up and running. We actually are doing a soft launch of a new website that Kathleen's been working very diligently on, getting it up to date with more modern look, not 1990s website look. And or early 2000s look. And so anyway, so that'll probably start on Monday. I'm not sure exactly, pretty soon. So that's going on. We're arrived in August, pretty amazing. I'm hoping that we'll finish Philippians in August. I think we can do it. We'll see how far we get today. I am having to end about 10 minutes early today. So we only have about an hour because I need to get down to help with closing BBS and play and stuff. But do you have any other notes? I guess I could give you, yeah, Paul.
Well, just questions, anticipating the future, when we leave the, champions. Has anybody started thinking about where we go from here?
I certainly have, but I would love some suggestions or input.
What have you been thinking?
What have I been thinking? Well,
Is it a cat you want to let out of the bag or?
I haven't arrived on any particular book. I've been, sometimes we bounce back and forth between Old Testament and New Testament. Some of the smaller prophets we have not dealt. We've done Daniel and we've done Jonah, so that's not totally true.
You think out loud too much about what to consider, you might have other people put their hearts on what direction you might take out.
Best to keep it, no, but I really would love to hear where your energy is, like even like Old Testament, do you want to do another letter of Paul or another epistle? You want to walk through a gospel? We'll be moving from Luke back into Matthew come December. So we could just start working through Matthew again. And that would then, to the end of 2025 and then into 2026 would, set us up. So we'd be studying the same gospel that the gospels on Sundays are coming from. So that's an option. We could even, I don't know if it'd be too heretical, we could even pause the Bible study thing And I don't know, we could, do some reading from the Oxford Confession or Luther's Catechism. I don't know. Anyway, got lots of thoughts, but I haven't arrived on anything. So is there anybody want to venture? Don't worry, it doesn't mean we have to do what you said, just like, no, I mean, you're not gonna influence me unduly, but you could just throw out what you would love to do. Yes, Ally,
How about the Gospel of John?
Gospel of John, which would be incredible. And the other great thing about that is we don't do the Gospel of John like we do Matthew, Mark, and Luke on Sundays. It gets smattered all throughout the 3 years. So that could be fun. That could be really fun. Luther said that was the best gospel. You like that? Yeah, so, okay, Ally, you may have got us going. Paul, do you have any hopes and dreams?
I was kind of attracted to the idea of Matthew, but John is really compelling too, because it's kind of so different.
Yes.
And I'm also like the idea of doing maybe eventually some of the epistles of John.
Yes, okay, yeah. First, second, third John, yeah. And I think we did that a little bit before your arrival.
Okay.
I forget how many years back, but we did do the epistles of John. Yeah.
Have we done John before?
We did the letters of John, as I recall in my vague memory. But I don't know that we've done the Gospel of John in this class.
Well, that'd be fun.
Yeah,
That'd
okay,
be really helpful, like discussing out loud with someone willing to research a lot of the details. of it.
oh, yeah,
It's pretty encoded as far as the gospel.
yeah, well. Oh, yeah, I mean, it's an amazing gospel. Okay, that's great feedback.
What
Joyce.
was happening up here yesterday? Was there a funeral?
The Party Neal and Vacation Bible School,
That's what I thought,
yeah,
but my husband was out flying and there were cars lined up in the parking lot.
oh, that's picking up from
Picking up,
Vacation
yeah.
Bible School. The way they do it, which you'll see, well, we'll finish in time so that you're not.
He said, I think there was a funeral.
Huh?
I said, well, I don't know.
No, yeah.
I haven't heard of it.
They line up because they bring the kids to the cars.
Yeah,
So,
that's
just the way it is. Yeah, great question. Hey, I can tell you,
Put it down to the Gospel of James.
the Gospel of James. You mean the letter of James, the epistle?
Yes.
Yeah, the epistle of James. We haven't, I don't think we've done that one, but that's a good one too. Yeah, yeah.
Although it wasn't Luther's favorite.
It wasn't Luther's favorite, but, that's, maybe sometimes a good reason to do it. Luther called James the epistle of straw, and a lot of people think that's because it wasn't that valuable, but Luther was referring to the straw in the manger. So as long as you understand that, which is interesting, yeah,
Maybe James would be good to follow John.
yeah, that's true, that's true.
What were
Okay,
you going
good.
to say? You're gonna add something else after we're talking about Vacation Bible School.
Oh, yeah, so, if you, not that our congregation is too wired into our national denomination, but, this week is the church-wide assembly, as they call it. Our church is, they call it, interdependent, but you have congregations and then synods. Yeah, why they decided to call them synods when there's the Wisconsin Synod and Missouri Synod, which are national churches. So it's always confusing. Try telling this to new people in my foundations class. They just kind of look at me like, what? So what are all these different Lutheran groups? Well, our denomination, the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, has congregations, synods, that's districts, and then church-wide, that's the national. So our national, which is the ultimate decision-making body in the ELTA, is meeting, and Elizabeth Eaton, who's been our church-wide bishop president for, I don't know how many years. Well, what, did she do 2 terms? I don't know.
Yeah, she-
I don't know if she was term limited out, but they're 6-year terms, so she may have been the bishop for the last 12 years. But we have a new bishop. They like the new bishop, his last name is Curry. He's an African American man. I don't know anything about him, but anyway, he was elected yesterday as the new churchwide bishop. They're also electing a new secretary, which is the, the governing kind of position. And then doing all kinds of other things, which we won't take time to go into, but anyway, so that's going on this week, if any of that hits the news.
I've
You're-
been on Facebook. I've been getting it on Facebook.
Okay, yeah, so if you're a friend of
I don't
the
know why.
ELCA stuff on Facebook, maybe, I don't know if Kim put some of it on our Facebook, church Facebook, I don't know, so I haven't looked.
So he's from,
Your goal,
I'm sorry?
did anybody in this area?
No, the only person that's ever been at the churchwide assembly from this congregation is Alex Lund as a youth person, many, many years ago.
I went 1 year, years.
Years and years ago. Yeah, so you have to get elected at the synod assembly or the district, again, they district, like you think ELCA. And then I think there's like 800 voting members of the churchwide assembly, so you got 56 synods or something like that, so certain number from each synod go. So that's the representation as such.
and he's from Chicago, like the new pope.
Yes, that's right. I didn't put those two together, but he is, Chicago's doing very well. All right. With that, let's get in and roll on our Bible study.
So is, just a question, is the
Yeah.
ELCA in Africa, Evangelical Lutheran Church in Africa, or is it?
Yes, quick, that's a great question. Paul asked, is the Evangelical Lutheran Church in Africa, or is that? We are not a worldwide communion like the United Methodist was. It's no longer. But that was the great thing about that church is they weren't just United States, they were worldwide. The United Methodist Church is a worldwide communion, but because of the human sexuality issues, and that they could stay together. The African churches are more conservative on family issues. The United States wanted to move in the direction that the ELCA nationally has done and most of the other Protestant mainline churches have done, and they couldn't reconcile those, so they broke apart. That's why the Methodist Church down the street is no longer United Methodist, Silverdale United Methodist Church. They're part of the Global Methodist Communion or something like that. So they left. But so to answer your question, Paul, we have very close relationships with the church in Tanzania and the Lutheran World Federation. But no, this is just the United States, just the United States. So, you'll see lots of representation from churches in Africa at our churchwide assembly. There's, really important close relationships with the church in Namibia, for instance, and other places around the globe. But from a political standpoint, it's just the United States. Okay, with that, we are at chapter 4. We will not go back and review. We do not have time. Therefore, my brothers and sisters, and I'm reading from the NIV. I'm really close to moving to the NIV for our Sunday morning readings. They do inclusivize. Like this is Adelphos in Greek, so it's literally just brothers. But it of course means brothers and sisters. It's a word for the whole community. But the NIV does that, which I really like. So I don't know, we'll think about this. But therefore, my brothers and sisters, you whom I love and long for. So here we go. We've got that lovely, Paul loves the Philippians. He loves this congregation. This is not an adversarial, thorn in his side congregation. This is a joy and delight. I love and long for my crown, my joy and my crown. Now there's two, let me just finish the sentence. Stand firm in the Lord in this way, dear friends, with an exclamation mark. So, that's a lovely, so let's unpack that a little bit, spend the rest of our, hour on that. No, I'm just kidding. So, the community, Adelphos, my brothers and sisters, I think sometimes we just hear that so much we pass over it, but you know, that's the kind of relationship. We are brothers and sisters in Christ. In Christ. And we're gonna get back to that word in just a minute. But that says something. So have you ever heard the church talked about as a family? What do you like about that? And maybe what's not so good about it? Let's talk about the pluses and minuses. What do you like about
Related.
that you're literally related? Yeah. That, you know, you don't choose your relatives, right?
Sometimes
Well-
we wish.
Exactly. So we are put together, God's called us into this congregation, so we're put together, we're diverse. So I like the family sense, because in every family, there's, you know, characters. Not that any of you are characters, but we're all characters, right? We're all different, we're all, you know, we have all got our idiosyncrasies, and we, you know, just like in families, we say, yeah, Jerry.
Yeah, I look on this church as my family.
Yes,
I have no other relatives in the area at all.
right.
And, so this is.
This is your family. I love it. I love that. That's beautiful. And I just talked to a couple that were seriously looking at moving to Florida. They're not happy with the taxation rate, but they also have some family there. And they actually concluded, you know what, this is where our family is. And they decided to stay. So, yeah, what's that?
That's welcome.
Yeah.
Sorry, there were-
Yes, right. That, they're one of about 5 family households that told me they're seriously thinking about needing to move or wanting to. But anyway, yes. Although I probably shouldn't have said that, but I'm sure that's fine. Yes, Andrew.
Yeah, something both good and bad as related to families.
Yes,
Is that people feel it's their business and even their duty to get into your business. Because, you know, for the sake of helping you,
yeah,
but you can also, the people might also consider it an intrusion in their lives. And so-
Boundary. yes, yes, good. We can talk about both the pluses and minuses of that metaphor. But Paul does say we are that kind of close knit. Because there's gonna be a problem, isn't there? There's an argument going on. That's the next verse. So where do you start? Where does Paul start? Hey, this person you're having an issue with is your sister, is your brother. Now that redefines things, doesn't it? So, yeah, good, love it. I love that people have that sense of community. I want more people to have that. I think about how that can happen. And I'm always hoping to facilitate that, that kind of connection. There's one little, maybe negative side to thinking about the church as a family. What, in addition to what Andrew mentioned, what do anybody want to venture?
Well, sometimes I think we get bogged down.
Hmm.
And every time the door's open, you're in here.
Yeah.
And I think that is not healthy.
Hmm.
I think you need to be more well-rounded in the community.
Okay, that you're getting to where I think I was thinking.
Families fight.
Families fight, yeah.
I don't understand what she was saying.
Yeah, I'm gonna unpack it some more. So I think Joyce was saying that when you think about this as just your church family, we want to be careful to also be engaged in the community.
Yeah.
And, you know, not just be here. And I think that's less of a factor here. But I have seen some big mega churches that have a gym, have a health club, have a coffee shop, have a restaurant, have this, and their lives, they have no life outside of the congregation. We don't want that. That's right. The next step from that is families that are tight knit. Is it easy to get into those families?
No.
That's the danger.
Welcoming here.
Yeah, thank you,
As a
Joyce.
Person.
Thank you,
I
Joyce.
felt very comfortable.
Thank you, Joyce.
When-
Joyce was saying that this congregation is very welcoming. As a new person, she's feeling received very well.
I think sometimes when families are tight knit, they're more judgmental of other people.
They can be more judgmental when they're so tight knit. They don't listen as well. Yeah, this is the danger. If this is a scale, you know, this isn't, no, don't ever talk about the church as your family, like Jerry just said beautifully. That's awesome. But let's just be careful that we, you know, families are closed circles.
I would express this as we have to focus on moving our insular tendencies.
Breaking our insular tendencies. Well said. So we want to make sure that it's an open circle, that other people can get in. And I just want to remind you of something that I say often to you, but can never be said enough. On Sunday mornings, when you're talking to your best buddies, look around and see who's not in the circle and try and include them. Like Joyce said, we do a great job here in this church. But that's always a place we can grow more.
School terminology, you might call it cliquishness.
Yeah, cliquishness or whatever. Did I see a hand over here? Yes, Paul.
I really, when you think of family in that way, it really brings into perspective the idea of adoption.
The idea of adoption, yeah.
We want to adopt people into the family.
Yes, we do, and we want a big, big family.
We want a big one, yeah.
That's the key. We want this family to be we want to have a big house with lots and lots of people. Yes, Stephanie.
And back to what you said about being only involved in church and not in the community.
Yeah,
And tying that to what you said last week about spreading the gospel. How
yes,
do we spread the gospel if we're just in this little nest?
right.
all the time,
We
you
need
know?
those relationships outside. So it's important you remember the Rotary or Sons of Norway or, you know, you know, all the other organizations. What's that? Scouts. Yeah, another one, AA, you know, all kinds of groups. It's important we be out there. School boards, HOAs, whatever. Political groups, yeah, absolutely, be on your, absolutely, you wanna be engaged out there in that way. Ally?
I like the fact that we can get together around the neighborhood.
Yes,
And gather people.
yeah,
From everywhere.
yeah. You know, we have worked hard here to reach out to our neighborhood. I'm sorry, I took a big bite about. Took off more than I could chew. Bill?
My story about Wilson, this church, I was out there before the devil came out.
Yeah,
Sunday, and I've gone to the church up in Paulsville, they were having breakfast up here, so that was an attraction to people. But it hadn't been down in summer, I was walking around, I saw this cardboard sign, so we go to church.
yeah,
Around the driveway, as I approached, there was a fruit outside, I saw that must be the choir. When you did
Yeah.
Close to home, and this voice came out, says, "Oh, we see you found the right Lutheran church."
yeah. That made a big difference, didn't it? Was that Darlene or was that?
I don't remember.
Oh, okay.
I've been going ever since.
Might have been Happy Scott, I don't know, yeah. Yeah, we've had some particularly gifted people with that, yeah.
Years ago, when we came to this church, we knocked in the front door. There was Darlene Britt. Her arms were already open
Yes,
and she enfolded us in her embrace. And she whispered in my ear, "Do you play pinochle?" I said, "Yes, I do." She said, "You're invited to my house Saturday night. We're having a pinochle party every week."
yeah,
And we have 12 instant friends.
yeah, 12 instant friends, there you go. And see, that's what we wanna always keep figuring out, how can we facilitate those kind of connections? So, okay, excellent,
Do you
please.
want to hear my story?
I do, I wanna hear your story, and then Gary, yeah,
Well, when Dan and I moved here, I was looking for a church. Of course, I
Yeah.
was Baptist then.
yeah,
So we went around to all the churches. Then finally, in the newspaper, I saw an ad for my spiritual life seminar kind of thing
okay,
at the Lutheran church.
oh,
So I said to Dan, wow, this sounds interesting. And he said, well, if you want to go, I'll go with you. So we went, but the church was over there by Walgreens, you know, right on the.
yeah, yeah,
And so we went down the basement into the Sunday school.
uh-huh,
And so everybody came out of the woodwork, you know, saying, oh, who are you? You know?
yeah, right,
And Paul Linder, Happy Scott,
yeah,
Betty Coster, Kathy Glick,
yeah,
and boy, the next Sunday when we went back, everybody knew our name.
wow,
I mean, hi Joyce and Dan, how are you guys?
yeah,
So then I said, well, I still haven't found a church. And so Dan said, well, have you thought about going upstairs? I said, well, I don't know anything about being a Lutheran.
right,
And he said, well, how are you gonna find out?
yeah,
So I went,
good for Dan.
and then that was it.
Yeah.
I've been here ever since,
Yeah.
35 years.
35 years, there you go.
That's the rest of the story.
And that's the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey said. Well, every one of us have a story that way. Gary, yeah,
Well, you asked about the negative aspects of
a
family.
family, yeah,
You can open your doors wide or you get a bad apple.
yes, yes,
And because this church got a bad apple
mm,
and it was divided when I was in confirmation and just after. It was very much divided.
yeah, yeah,
And it took, they kicked the pastor out.
yeah,
So there was a lot of people left. When
Yeah.
Pastor Earl came in, then a lot of people kicked back, when
Yeah.
he left, but others left.
yeah,
So it was, you always have that chance that you're not finding the right person.
right,
That goes to morals,
yes,
morality
yeah,
for the family.
you're right,
Cause you open yourself wide up. If there's some bad apples are gonna
yeah,
come in.
yeah.
They just
And-
are.
Right, right. So, yeah, there's two things in what you shared, Gary, I want to highlight. One, the importance of the pastor being a good pastor.
Yeah,
And pastors do mess up and they need God's grace too, but sometimes they mess up in a way that should and does disqualify them. The problem, of course, is some people really love the pastor, some people maybe don't. And so then you start getting, but I want to speak to when you open it up big, you might get a bad apple. Well, here's the good news. We're all bad apples. At a certain level, we're all sinners. And so by having a family that's got a big reach, you're going to have a lot of broken people. You get a bunch of sinners together, you're going to have problems. You're going to have divisions. You're going to have this. And we have to learn, and actually Paul will help us here in this passage with that. So, all right, one more and we'll actually move on.
What was just said also gets into organizational structure in that I think the fact that there's a top-down structure that you were alluding to with the church, and there's also bottom up.
Yeah,
Well, I think bottom up preserves it, because if you're captured by one bad actor at any point in the hierarchy, then they could poison the whole bunch. And
Yeah.
this might be the case with the pastor that wasn't
Yeah.
right. Or it might be the case with, well, here's an example, the Pope, who is pushing LGBTQ stuff.
yeah.
Like, that's caused a whole lot of fracture within the church.
So, yeah, I'm not gonna go down that road, but I am gonna say that the structure is important and accountability is important. Because we're broken.
I think ultimately our root is the Holy Spirit, and that comes bottom up because it connects each person individually.
So system and our expression of the church is both top down and bottom up. Ultimately, bottom up. We are congregational, or at least this is a complex issue, so I'm just going to touch on it lightly and move on. You know, I'm not a pastor until a congregation calls me. I am not once and for all forever a pastor. If I don't have a call in 3 years, for 3 years, I'm no longer a pastor. I have to get recertified and go through the whole process before I get a call. So once a pastor, not always a pastor, because my office is given by you. You say, Pastor Bill Crabtree and Jonathan Sandsgaard, we want you to baptize, we want you to do communion, and we want you to preach the gospel and make sure we stick to the gospel and you know, that. Now, this church has partnered with other churches in the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, and we do have a higher up structure so that there is accountability. I'm not just accountable to you, I'm also accountable to the wider church. So that if I were to do something really bad, whatever that might be, that the bishop could come in and say, you're no longer a pastor on the roster of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. And then this congregation, if it didn't want to go in contradiction to the ELCA, would ask me to resign as well. So it kind of goes both ways in our system. We elect bishops, they're not appointed over us. So our district bishops are our synodical bishops. So yeah, so it's a complicated thing, but bottom line, there should be accountability in any family, and every family has norms, and those are good as long as you make sure you are inviting other people into that. And that's the only thing I want. So wow, brothers and sisters, okay, that's who we are. Paul loves this church, my joy and my crown. A quick word on crown. There's 2 words in Greek for crown. One is like a kingly crown. That's not the crown Paul talks about. This is one that's often used in the Olympics. This was the highest thing that an athlete could have and achieve, you know, with the olive, you know, and the yes. Yes. So Paul says that this congregation is his joy and crown. And this church family. And I know I feel that way. That about Silverdale Lutheran and my other congregation, you know, not that we're talking about pastors, but if Paul is in one sense a leader or, you know, a shepherd of this particular sheepdog of this particular congregation, I sometimes run into pastors and I go, do you love your people? You know, I mean, it can get hard because sometimes congregations are pretty unhealthy. We are so blessed here. I mean, not that there aren't problems, we all have problems, but you know, sometimes it gets so adversarial. It's like, if you don't love your people, you need to move on. You know, I mean, that doesn't mean you don't have issues and you don't push them and you're a sheepdog. You have to, you know, sharpen. You know, you have to sometimes even bite them a little bit. No, I'm kidding. I'm not gonna bite you. So, so you need this. So I feel that way. I'm very proud of this congregation, and at the same time, that's why I want to keep it growing and keep moving and not grow stale. Yes. Thank you, Allie. So now let's get to this important word. Stand firm in the Lord in this way, dear friends. In what way? Well, what he's just talked about up here. You know, which is, you know, our citizenship is in heaven and we await a Savior, our Lord Jesus. He's talked about following Paul's example, but also he's said that we've received reconciliation and justification by faith in Christ. And then we strive on to make it our goal. We strive for what God has already given us. We want to take off the old nature and put on the new that we have. So, but we have it as a gift. So stand firm is the issue in this way. Now, let's talk about standing firm and how we do that. But before we do that, let's talk about in the Lord. This word right here, that small little word, I-N, is one of the most important words when it comes to being a Christian. You know, stand firm. Does Paul just say stand firm? You know, get tough. You know, this actually, I believe this is, I think William Barclay, if I remember reading right, let's see. Let's see. Yeah, he talks about the Philippians are to stand fast or stand firm in the Lord. Only with Jesus can we resist the seductions and temptation and the weakness of cowardice. The word Paul uses for stand fast is the word which would be used for a soldier standing firm in the onset of battle. So this isn't, I'm sorry, Ally?
Persist.
Persist, that's right. So this isn't a, you know, just stand. This is a stance. So Joyce, I'm standing firm here. I'm like, you know, I'm ready. You know, I'm planted. I remember in football, you know, you didn't just, as a linebacker, you didn't stand back on your heels and, you know, try and tackle somebody. You got to get on your toes. You got to. So this is the kind of image I get. Did I see a hand? Yeah, Joyce.
Well, resist. Resist is a word to me, and on guard, you know, that's it,
Sure.
fear yourself to go forward.
Right.
Everything I see, I don't do it, but.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have to stand on something, we can't just stand on a muddy surface, or we can't
There you go.
stuck in a, you know, in a jam somewhere.
Right. Doesn't Jesus say that, you know, if we do what he says to do, we are on a rock, and if we don't, we're on what? Sinking sand? So the foundation, this is where I wanted to go. So that's perfect. Paul doesn't just say stand firm. He says stand firm where? In the Lord.
The same is true of the passage just before, put on the armor of God. Be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the armor of God, the whole armor of
Standing
God.
on the promises of God, my Savior. Standing. I'm standing on the promises of God.
Standing on the promises of God. Love that hymn. There you go. And we're standing on the promise and promises of God. Joyce rightly pointed us to Ephesians. Therefore, take up the whole armor of God so that you may be able to withstand on that evil day, and having done everything to stand firm, stand therefore and fasten the belt of truth. And it goes on. So here, standing is putting on the armor of God. Faith and right, the breastplate of righteousness, the gospel of peace, all of this. Paul in Ephesians expands this in the Lord. What does that look like? He talks about the armor of the Lord, which is cool. But he uses this term quite a bit. In 1 Corinthians 16, he says, stand firm in your what? Faith. Be courageous, be strong. Notice he didn't say stand firm in your good works. I do not mean to imply that the Lord, rather we are workers with you for your joy because you stand firm in the faith. That's 2 Corinthians. Galatians, for freedom Christ has set us free. Keep singing. Stand firm, therefore, and do not submit again to a yoke of slavery. Stand firm against believing that the law is needed to make you righteous. So again, now we get even more. We've been set free. Don't go back into a yoke of slavery. So stand in that. Stay solid, but you're standing on the Lord. There, and then Ephesians we already looked at. Philippians 4, we've got what we're reading. Thessalonian correspondence, he says, for now we live. If you continue to stand firm, where? In the Lord. So then, brothers and sisters, stand firm and hold fast to the traditions that you were taught by us. What are those traditions? Justification by faith. Jesus has taken your sin and given you all his righteousness. Stand firm, either by word of mouth or by our letter. So in Paul's preaching, what he's preached to them, or what he's written to them. So this standing firm is huge. That's what we're called to do. Keep singing that hymn is what we need to do. Yes, Paul?
So it's never in your own strength or self-sufficiency.
Yes, right. It's not in our own strength or self-sufficiency, which is kind of the interesting thing, isn't it? Because standing is both passive but not. I mean, sitting is passive,
Yeah.
but standing, it takes muscles. Try, as people go to the hospital and they're in a hospital bed for a week and they lose all their strength because they just can't even get up and just walk around the room. So standing does take some effort, but it's still not really, it's pretty basic, but get yourself planted on the firm ground, not in your own strength or understanding. And I think there's some Old Testament passages about that too, aren't there? Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking of when the Seahawks went to the Super Bowl. They were so known for their defense.
Yes.
Defense.
Mm-hmm.
People even brought pieces of a fence. for
The League of Doom.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it was really fun. And then I'm thinking, when you put on the armor of God, the last thing is the sword. So you're
Yes.
equipped.
Yeah.
You're not going aggressively, but you're there to defend. And
Right.
you have what you need to defend.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Nice. Yeah, so I think it's pretty cool. Stand firm. Have you heard of the phrase hang in there? Some people don't like that because they feel like it's not a strong enough thing. But when I hear hang in there, I hear stand in there. Stand in there. And maybe we should say stand in there versus hang in there. But I feel it's, I like hang in there because hang on to the promises of God is a way of standing on the promises. I think that's probably one of our most important. If there's anything I do in this life, I'm going to hang on to the promise of God.
And not only if you hang on, but if you stand shoulder to shoulder with your family.
Oh, nice, Joyce. So how do we do that? Well, we do it with help.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why we show up on Sunday morning and we hang in there and we come to Bible study and we go to small groups and we're standing with others. Can you imagine? I think I use this illustration, like if you were a football team, would you go out as one person and try and go against a whole other team? You'd be creamed. So no, we stand together. And that's really what maybe our gathering now and Sunday morning is all about. I saw a hand here.
See the Seahawks team?
I have.
They stand together.
They stand together. That's exactly right, Ally.
I think the distinction between standing and hanging should be, ask yourself, are you on the assault or are you on the defense?
Yeah.
Because hanging is like you're on a cliff and don't know you're gonna die.
Yeah.
Standing is being aggressive and standing your ground.
Yeah,
I mean, like, I will not be
right.
destroyed or lost.
Right. And so I think both of those are helpful. You've heard the story though of the guy that slipped off the trail and he grabbed onto a branch. He was just hanging on the edge. So of course, what do you do when you're hanging? You pray to God for help. So he prayed to God, God, help me. And there was no answer and nobody came by and he kept praying and he said it like 2 or 3 times, and he said, one more time, God, you've got to help me. And the voice came from heaven and said, let go. And then he said, is there anybody else up there? Anybody else? Sorry, I just had to tell that funny joke. Okay, Jim, you had a comment, please.
When I hear this, in the Lord, stay with your total dependency on God.
Nice, perfect. Stay with your total dependency on God. That's where Paul was going. Don't be strong in your own understanding, but be strong in the Lord and what Jesus has done for you. So to be in Christ is really the bottom line. That's what we want. Beautiful. All right, so now that's the way we stand firm. Beautiful. That's what we're doing right now. Let's keep going. I plead with Euodia And I plead with Syntyche to be of the same mind in the Lord. So then we get in the Lord again. Whoa, that in the Lord is important. Yes, and I ask you, my true companion, help these women, since they have contended at my side in the cause of the gospel, along with Clement and the rest of my co-workers, whose names are in the book of life. All right, let's spend the last 10 minutes or 15 minutes here unpacking that paragraph. So these are two people of the Philippian church that Paul knows well. And he pleads with them to be of the same mind in the Lord.
Women.
And they're women. So let's, since Berta mentioned that, might, yes, and I ask you, so help these women who have contended at my side in the cause of the gospel. Now, I'm one that's very persuaded by these references that Paul has to women as true companions with him in the work of the gospel. Now, I think it's important that in the cause of the gospel, what does gospel mean? Good news. All right, so if you're working for if you're in the cause of the gospel, what are you doing? You're spreading the word. Yes, Joyce, the gospel is words. So how can someone be, contending at Paul's side and not be preaching the gospel?
Right.
They're preachers with Paul. I don't see how you can get around that. Some people would say, oh no, women can't do that. Or they can do it individually with other people, but they can't be a preacher or they can't be this.
Still saying that.
They're still saying it. It's still an issue within the church. Catholic Church, Orthodox Church, then you got some Protestants like us who embrace the ordination of women.
You do it.
Yes, they can, Ally. Beautifully, in fact. I think it's clear, that women have been given the gifts and call to be preachers, be pastors. But it isn't just because he says they contend by my side. Clearly, you could make the case that they're just in a supportive role and they're contending, they're with Paul. But nonetheless, you'd certainly have to say that their role was very important. But then he says, along with Clement. Now, Clement, there is a letter of Clement that comes up later, but this is a church leader, an official, and he says they are, along with Clement, they work side by side. So he puts them right there with this very important leader, Paul.
Some translations translate true companion as yoke fellow.
Yoke
And
fellow.
when you think of a yoke, they're side by side.
Yes.
They're pulling the same load.
Yeah. Yes. Excellent. Soon struggle along with, contended at my side. So I think that's beautiful. They are yoked, they are true partners, and then they're along with Clement. Just so you know, in Romans 16, there's a woman called Juania that is called superlative among the apostles. In a lot of our older translations, they translate this person as a male because they couldn't imagine that a woman would be called an apostle. But there is no occurrences, and the reason they do that, again, I've taught on this a lot, I'll get to you, Sharon. The reason they do that is because the word in Greek, the name in Greek, doesn't tell you whether it's a feminine or a masculine. It's like Chris. Could Chris be a woman or a man? Both, Christine or Christopher. Well, it doesn't in Greek have the indicator whether it's a man or a woman. But then we go searching in all of Greek literature. I mean all of Greek literature. We never find this person as a man. So if this person was not a woman, it's the only person that ever in the history of Greek culture had that name as a man. In other words, have you heard the song "A Boy Named Sue"? You know, by Johnny Cash. Well, that's what it was. So no, this was a woman named superlative among the apostles. Yes.
But I
Sure.
think in what we're looking at here, Paul is talking to the whole church, it seems like.
Yeah.
And he's giving a overlook of how he sees the church, and it's an organization like any. And I think rather than male-female thingy, I think it's because these two women have had a difference of opinion.
Yeah, we're gonna get back to that. Yeah.
Within the organization, and they're beginning to argue with themselves.
Yeah.
And this is having a fallout in the
Correct.
church.
Yeah.
And so he's pointing to that, because it could be two men go against each other.
Sure.
Women, a man, a woman, whatever.
Right.
It's
It's-
two people who start the problem.
Right. It's two people, and these two people were important people
Yes.
into the church. So much so that their disagreement was a problem. Yeah, excellent. Andrew?
I'd also point out that language particulars aside, we've all heard of certain authors where the woman is actually hiding behind a pen name that's a man's name.
Yeah, that is true, because in our culture, women had to do that in order to be accepted. So, but in this case, all I want to put out, I'm not solving any problems here. I just want to say, these are some pretty high words, and he's not done. The rest of my co-workers. Now, this is a great word, sunergos. Sunergos in Greek. So ergo or ergos is the word for work. Like ergonomic, you know, so it's the word for work. And sin, does that sound like synergy? Where we get the word synergy? My co-workers. Paul calls, this is his favorite word for men and women of people who are right there with him. And I know that there are some limiting words in Timothy and one spot in 1 Corinthians about what women can do and what they can't do. But those passages have been looked upon as winning the day, rather than maybe Paul was saying there's a situation in those congregations and at that time that, you know, there were some problems. And so he says some restricting words. But over in all these other places, he talks about Phoebe as a deacon who takes the letter to Rome, which when you took the letter, when you were the courier, you were expected to explain the letter to the people. So here he gives a woman that charge, and he calls women synergos. Well, I think that should make us think about things. And we at least should give more weight to those, or at least equal weight to those as other passages. But that's, we've talked about that a lot. Their names are written in the book of life. This is an apocalyptic kind of statement about, you see this in Revelation, the book of life. Their names have been written. So they are in the book of life along with everybody else. The last thing I'll say on this part, and then I want to get to the disagreement part, is if I would think there would be something like, they're my fellow workers, but don't think that they're doing what I'm doing or that they're leaders. He just says, he puts them right along in that leadership role and moves on. He is not concerned. So anyway, I think it's interesting. And in my own journey with this issue of what is the role of women, and these passages have been really important. I didn't come to that position because of what's going on culturally. Although that's certainly true, that women, I'll come to you, Ally, that women have, gotten more freedom and more ability to, their role they've got more freedom, which I'm very much in favor of. If I wasn't, my family would kick me out at this point. But nonetheless, I believe that in the scriptures, we see women being leaders in the New Testament and preaching. In Acts, Peter says, your men and your women shall proclaim the word in the last days. So, I think women can receive this. So my view of this is not that they have rights, they do in culture and society, they should have rights. And I've seen they have a call. And women should be free to use their gifts, just like have clearly, in my view, a call to preach and teach and administer the sacraments. And to limit them that way, for me, would be a wrong or very sad thing. But obviously, I know that others give more credence to other passages and severely restrict that. But nonetheless, that's been my journey. It's not because the culture changed, although I'm not saying that didn't affect me. I grew up with a very strong mom who ran a business, you know. And so I was not used to women not being able to be leaders. That's like bizarre. But, you know, I mean, that's, you know, so that certainly affected me. But when I went to the scriptures and found passages like this one, I go, wow, something's going on here. And when I look at how Jesus relates to women, like, wow, something's going on here. Allie, throw in, and then I'll bring this to a close. Yeah.
Are women more predominant than men?
Are what?
Are women more predominant than men?
Predominant? Oh, predominant. You know, in the New Testament, I think you see a pretty equal mentioning of women and men in Paul's greetings and whatnot, you know. Yeah. Now, they're not any of the apostles, that's true, you know. The Catholic Church will say, hey, the 12 there weren't any women in there, because my response is, well, they weren't in the 12, but there was Mary and Martha, you know, there were all kinds of women that were followers and disciples of Jesus. And then I usually say this to that retort. I say, well, there wasn't any Gentiles either.
Yeah, right.
So maybe we need to get all Jewish men to be pastors if we're going to do that. Okay, we're at the end. A quick one, Linda, and then
I just wanted to say that in a herd of horses or a pack of wolves, the women are in charge.
there you go. I just think that for me, God, I'm not saying we're not different. God, men and women are very different. They're created different. I believe in all of that, but I just simply believe that a woman should be able to follow what God is calling her to do, just like men, not just privately, that women still have to go through the same process of confirmation and confirmation of whether they have a call or not to ordain ministry like other people do. But, you know, anyway, I like that sense of freedom. So let me talk about the disagreement, and then we'll pick up here next week at Rejoice. We'll have to start next week with the song, Doug. So let's talk about I'm gonna finish in 3 or 4 minutes, and then I'm just running across the way.
Yeah.
Are women more predominant than men?
Are they more predominant? In the sense of what, Allie? Like leadership or in scripture?
Or in terms of the cast of characters?
Yeah, I'm not sure what. My answer would be, I don't think they're more predominant than men in the Bible, but I don't think they're necessary. You know, clearly the Jewish culture was very patriarchal. That's one reason when Jesus comes along and Mary and Martha and Mary sits at Jesus's feet, a woman would never do that in that culture. That was verboten. That was not acceptable. And Jesus says, Mary, you did the right thing. So he affirms Mary taking the role of a student. So we see Jesus moving, you know, the needle, so to speak, on this issue, I think. So I'm not sure what you meant, but let's keep talking. I want to finish with just touching on the disagreement part. Quick one, Sharon?
Yeah, real quick. Well, that's the times. You're saying if no women were leading the synagogues and all that kind of stuff, there were roles that were established.
Yeah.
And they were accepted.
Yeah.
They were known about. If you're gonna have 12 people, they're gonna go on the road.
Yeah.
You can't have 3 or 4 women on the road or they'd be gone.
So women went along, but they were with the men. Yeah, there's all kinds of cultural things that come into play. And our challenge is to sort out the cultural from this is the way God wants it for all time. And I think I see what Paul's saying here as a very opening up of the role, importance and role of women, where it was very severely limited. But even in the Old Testament, there are powerful women, you know. So, all right, let's talk about disagreement in the church. And then we'll leave. We won't be able to have a conversation. We can touch on this next week if we want to, before we rejoice in the Lord always. Sharon got us going there, and it was really a great point that if one, it complements with what I've just been saying. If these women were not important to the church, although any disagreement anytime doesn't help the church, but especially when you have leaders, it hurts the church. I've seen this over and over. When pastors don't get along, not good. When there's conflict there, doesn't mean they have to agree, but they gotta helpfully talk about their disagreements. It filters down to the whole church. The leadership, if it isn't good leadership, that filters down. So, but note where our agreement is in the Lord. Paul doesn't say be of the same mind on everything. I mean, some people, you know, like certain kinds of music and some people not. But be of the same mind in the sense of in the Lord. So to what I take that to mean, and I'll just leave you with this and then we'll pick it up next week, is in the Lord is in the gospel, in what God did in Christ. We need to have agreement there. We need to be of the same mind. What is the gospel? When I started my systematic training in seminary, the first semester massive 30-page paper was on one question: what is the gospel? And to this day, that is the most important word. Because if we don't agree on what the gospel is, we're lost. And that's where we'll pick it up next week. All right, go in peace, serve the Lord. I'll stop. Thank you guys. I'll stop the share. And thanks, Kathy at home. God bless you.